But if you want to go from an owner operator and having a great job to owning a business, businesses are scalable, durable, and transferable. And you can't scale and there's no durability inside of a practice that is everything is on the shoulders of your back.
Hey, Smart Chiropractors, welcome to the Smart Chiropractor Show and our featured guest segment. Today, we have a special featured guest, a gentleman that I have gotten to know quite well over the last few years and now call a friend, Dr. Mark Mouw. He is the co-founder of Mouw Family Chiropractic. He is a coach with a remarkable practice and the director of DC placements at Chiro Match Makers. He is not busy at all, so we're happy he took some time today to chat with us. Mark, how are you doing today?
I am doing awesome. Super excited to be on with you and Dr. Jason. Excited to talk about what we do to help doctors find doctors.
I love it. I want to start with a question that is a burning fire for so many docs out there that have dealt with turnover or bad relationships in the past. I want to trace it back to the beginning of that. What are perhaps an indication or two that a doc should start thinking about hiring an associate? And what might be a common reason or two why docs shouldn't, that you see happening all the time out in the field?
Wow, you're going to start off with a big one. I like nothing like teeing me up right away. Now, you guys might not have a chance to speak for the next 20 minutes, I believe, but let me start out by just saying this. What we see in the profession today is we see mismanaged relationships. All starts at a relationship level and understanding really what the end has in store. A lot of doctors, when they're looking to hire an associate, what they are is they're looking at plugging in someone into the practice to help them with today, right? I need help today. I have a doctor leaving me. I've got a wait list of new patients. I need new patients. Like I need some help here getting new patients. So they hire a doctor with the need of what they have today instead of actually looking like what's it look like in this relationship long term, right? I think all of us on this line dated somewhere along the line, and we were dating maybe not to find our the one we married, right? But sooner or later, we do start to look for that. So you're looking for that person that can be with you long term. So what I would say to every doctor out there, before you bring an associate into your practice, why are you bringing that associate in? What's the expectations? What will be the agreements you will have with that doctor to make sure that the relationship goes in the right direction? On the second half of your question is, when should a doctor bring a doctor in? I will tell you, first and foremost, it was one of the reasons I gave you, you should be bringing a chiropractor into your practice because you're failing in practice and you think an associate's going to save your practice and the relationship with your patients. Associates aren't built that way. They will help you build a practice, but they're not going to build the practice for you. So I would say, start with the end in mind. Why are you hiring that associate? Just not a stopgap of the situation you're in right now. And then if you're looking at someone to save your practice, it just doesn't exist. Don't expect that when you hire an associate.
This is such a big topic. We could probably do 2, 3, maybe even more episodes, Mark, but it's such an important topic. I guess what I want to get some greater clarity on, we're talking about associates. You know, you sort of said chiropractors finding chiropractors. From where I sit, it's tough enough for consumers to find the right chiropractor. It's even harder for chiropractors to find the right chiropractor. Would you go deeper into kind of what that process is like? I mean, you know, clearly they shower, they're presentable, they brush their teeth, you know, there's the basics, but what do you dig deeper into in order to be able to find the right chiropractor beyond sort of the physical obvious?
Another great question. Once again, I could take another 20 minutes, like you said, multiple episodes. What I find in our profession, and I think you guys get this as well, is doctors have big hearts. They usually love other chiropractors. They love their patients. They're just trying to be successful. And a lot of times what they do is they tend to hire on gut. I like this person sitting across from me. They want to live where I live. They went to the school that I went to. Ooh, they want to adjust like I adjust. Oh, let's get in a relationship together. You're my next associate. And then what we know by our numbers is that 18 months down the road, over 60% of associateships fail. And it's because we usually hire on gut. So what we did at Chiro Matches is we looked at saying, okay, let's base the decision more around science than basing it around a gut decision, right? So what we are doing with with the doctors that we work with is we actually build out through a discovery session the snapshot. And the snapshot's what's the job role you want that doctor to have. So it goes back to the first question: what's my expectation in the end? What do I need this doctor to do? A lot of doctors aren't sure what they need the doctor to do. So we have a very in-depth process. I call it the HR component of our business. Most corporations, to be successful, have an HR department. What's the HR department really good at? Well, they're really good at hiring. Chiropractors aren't usually really good at hiring, so they should hire somebody to help them do it. So I personally, each person on our team that works with clients builds out what we call a discovery session, a process, and it's a snapshot. The who, the what, the when, the why. What's the culture of the practice? We know cultural mismatches will last less than 90 days. So the culture needs to be right. What do I mean by that? Subluxation versus non-subluxation, a multidisciplinary, somebody that's doing 20 minutes of active deep tissue work. Those are all different cultures in the practice. A practice that sees 80 visits a week compared to a practice that sees 800 visits a week. Different types of doctors are going to be able to fit those practices. And then what we bring to the table is what I call meaningful metrics. A person who sees 80 a week compared to a person who sees 300 a week, they need to be compensated differently. And there's an extreme problem within our profession of understanding how to pay a chiropractor. In most cases, it's not enough. In most cases, we don't realize doctors at this point, we've all been out 20 years, right? We don't realize doctors are getting out of chiropractic school with $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in debt. I mean, they got to pay that back, right? It's crazy what they're coming out with. And then what we do is we actually do a behavioral assessment with them that helps us determine how that owner is built to lead, how they're an owner inside of that practice, to help them understand how they're going to lead that next associate. And one of the metrics that we take a look at is this person, how dominant are they? How systematized are they? And based on the owner, we can come up with weak coin and avatar. So we're not subjectively sitting across from the room and going like, man, Dr. Jason, he's awesome. He's 6'4" like I am. He likes to practice like I do. Man, we live in the same community. This is the perfect fit. And then Dr. Jason and I, 18 months down the road, hate each other because we chose based on gut. We are basing it around science. We're basing it around an HR session to help us really help the owner determine who is the next right hire, how to compensate them, how do I lead, and then what type of doctor will fit into my practice, that piece of the puzzle that's going to work for us to be most successful.
That makes a lot of sense, Mark. And I'm thinking about the docs right now that are listening and watching, and maybe they're looking for that next career opportunity, whether they just graduated, perhaps they've been in the field a little while, they're looking for what's next. I remember, back in the day, it seemed like a chiropractor that started, if they got paid, 20, you kind of alluded to it, $20,000 in a year, they were lucky. Now I see jobs starting at $80,000 plus. What's the supply and demand look like out there currently from what you're seeing? And what can a doc reasonably expect to make as an associate?
Yeah. So once again, loaded question. It depends on what the, responsibilities, job roles, and so forth of what that doctor is going to do in the practice, right? The volume they're going to see, collections in the office, things like that. But what our numbers show is there's about 5 times more jobs than there are associates available. Okay. So 5 times more jobs. What's an associate's world? So if you're coming to the marketplace looking to hire a doctor for $50,000, $60,000, which some CAs are making in doctors' offices, right? Man, you're going to have a hard go at it because this doctor probably has $2,500 a month to pay in, school loans. They've got to live, they've got to live. They maybe have a family. And doctors say to me as owners, at times they're like, well, that's really not my problem. And I look at them and I say back to them, I'm like, that is your problem. That is how you're going to grow your practice. You can stay a solo practitioner, very successful. There's no reason for you to add an associate to your practice. If you're happy, don't add one. Why complicate the situation? But if you want to grow a business, if you want to go from a solo practitioner and having what I call the best job in the world, the chiropractic job, who's seeing chiropractic patients by yourself with a small team, lovely, continue to do it. There's nothing against that. But if you want to go from an owner operator and having a great job to owning a business, Businesses are scalable, durable, and transferable. And you can't scale, and there's no durability inside of a practice that is everything is on the shoulders of your back. And I know you guys understand that. You've been around this so long, right? So what I would tell you is building out the right model of what the job role is going to be, and then building the right compensation around that model to make sure that we're attracting the right type of doctor to do that job inside of that practice. I would tell you that there's a new grad coming out of school. You can do an onboarding process with them that's a little lower in compensation as you train and educate them over a 3 to 6 month process, 30 to 60 to 90 days to onboard them and train them and get their hands working and learning your systems, procedures, and processes. You know what? You might be paying somewhere between, 4 and 6,000 for somebody like that at that point, right? Once again, it also is based around demographics. But I would tell you chiropractors in a range of somewhere between 75 and 80,000, all the way up to seeing, 10 to 15% of our jobs are 110, 120, $130,000. But what I do is I help doctors do the meaningful metrics. Just working with a young gentleman this morning through one of those discovery sessions, and we're filling out a snapshot. This young gentleman, 7 years in practice, 300 visits a week, $60 a visit. I showed him that if he was going to pay this doctor $85,000 a year at $7,000 a month, he would only need to build up that practice 32 visits to accommodate that type of pay for the doctor. And he was blown away. He's like, I'm 2 weeks out with new patients. You're telling me I'm losing money right now because patients aren't coming to my office because they have to wait 2 weeks. If I had an associate in here, I can make and accommodate that very quickly. And I said, absolutely. Once again, they're a doctor. They should be paid like a doctor, but you also have to have the talent that's there and match it specifically, which I know that, some of the conversations we've had offline, we're not a headhunter. What we are is we're a matchmaker. We're not just sending you doctors looking for a position, throwing you the hand grenade, and expecting you to do it. What we're going to do is we're going to spend the time on the front end to make sure we match make and that this process goes well for you to make sure you get a good doctor, great doctor that you're going to have long term if that's what you're looking for.
All right, Mark, let me see if I'm getting this all right. Number one, you got to decide what role you want to hire an associate for. Depending on the role that you're looking for will depend on the type of person you want to hire for. Two, if you decide you do need an associate or want an associate, then the choice is, okay, do I go to all the colleges and tell them I'm looking for someone and try to put it on job boards and all types of things and do this myself, or have my, office manager, spouse, or someone else sort of handle it for me? Or do I hire you, your firm, Chiro Match Makers? And I guess I don't really want to get into the cost per se, because I know that changes based on whatever, but what I want to get into is the cost of making a mistake. You mentioned most of them kind of go on gut feel, the vibe, you resonate, I resonate, we're going to work here together. That'll work for us, although that has nothing to do with whether they're competent, whether they're smart, whether they're going to fill the hole for the long term as you're describing. I know you've seen this, so I want to help people understand, similar to asking a patient, what do you think will happen if you don't start care in 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years from now? I guess I'm asking the same thing. What do you find to be the common traps when people do try to do it themselves, make the mistake? What happens and how much does that cost in time, money, energy, effort, and all that goes along with it?
All the above, right? Well, once again, another 20-minute conversation, but I'll do it in 2 or 3. What I would say, to be blunt and honest, is chiropractors need to grow up. And then what we need to grow up in is what we need to do is we need to start to become business owners instead of mom and pop shops. What I mean by that is so many of us think that we as chiropractors need to do everything in our office. We handle the marketing, we handle the HR, we handle the hiring, we handle fixing the toilet. We do all these things on our own instead of actually hiring experts to do that, which happens in most other places in the world in business, right? So what I say is that if you don't have a true passion, you don't have background in it, if you don't love the HR component and going out and using AI and using platforms and having behavioral assessments that corporations are using to hire the right people, if you are just placing ads at a school on Indeed and raising your hand going like, I'm over here, please look at me.
And that's our interview with Dr. Mark Mouw, Director of DC Placement with Chiro Match Makers. We had a little bit of technical difficulties at the end, which is why it's a little bit abrupt, but Mark delivered so much fantastic information that I believe every chiropractor out there needs to be in tune with. I wanted to make sure we delivered this episode. So thanks, Mark, for coming on. And if you would like to learn more about hiring in a way that produces long-term success, head over to chiromatchmakers.com. And also, if you're looking for your next opportunity in your career, we have over 100 jobs available right now with great starting salaries, varying types of practice philosophies all across the United States and beyond. You can learn more at chiromatchmakers.com. Thank you so much for watching this video on the Smart Chiropractor. To not miss a single thing that's clinically oriented, marketing oriented, or more, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel today.